G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is the much anticipated Grand Final drop spot map breakdown. I'm going to be going through the map for the EU and NA East Grand Finals. I'm going to be talking about who's dropping on who and also my predictions of who I think the top 5 teams are in both regions to take it all away. And this finals is looking interesting. It's going to be really hard to pick. I think there's so many fantastic teams in, and because of the qualification process, some of the best teams, we haven't got to see them play all season in FNCS. If you take the top 3 teams from last Grand Finals, they already made it straight into this Grand Finals, so we haven't got to see them play. So this is a tough video to kind of get my predictions out, but you guys know I love breaking down all the drop spots. I love giving you the storylines, who's dropping on who's got a little bit of beef, because Grand Finals in a couple days and I am so excited. So let's jump straight into it. Kicking off with NA East before we look at EU, it's looking interesting, and interesting for the fact that almost no one is contested, or very few are. We have a lot of teams going drops to avoid contesting each other, and there's no really major massive teams like a top 5 team, in my opinion, that I think is contested so far. EU is a different story. Man, when I get to EU, it is ridiculous. We have some of the best teams, if not the best team in the world, looking like they're going to get contested, but NA East doesn't look too much like that. So before I break down all the people being contested, I want to go through what my top 5 are, because all of them are uncontested. Then I'll go through some of these contested drops and talk about who I think is actually going to walk away with it. My top 5 picks for NA East are pretty much exactly what they were going into the last season. Remember, this is going to be difficult though. We haven't got to see any of these teams really play this FNCS. They all got top 3 last finals, or they qualified by getting top 3 early on in the week. So this is a really, really tough one to pick, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to break down and defend my reasons why. So in no order for the top 5, we have Degen, Ajers, and Skqttles. They're dropping Orchard. It's where they've been dropping for seasons now. This team has been playing together for such a long time. I think they're such a ridiculously strong team. They are, out of this top 5, I feel like the most underrated on the list. They really do kind of just slide under there because none of them really make a lot of content. They've always been a bit quiet on social media, but they're an absolute beast of a team. My only concern for them is the Orchard split they have right now is either going to be really, really good or not really, really bad, but it's going to be a bit weaker. So right now I have them on the map just at Orchard and maybe a little bit of the Spire, but currently they could also get the triple houses all the way to the north and the antenna house and the bunker chest if they wanted to. But I really think some of these teams that are contesting other areas, maybe like Dequented, Zemo, and Tetro dropping at Risky on top of Colazo's team. I'll talk about that a bit later. I would imagine teams like that who are going to have a rough time of things will probably see that area of loot on the map and want to drop there, because it is more than enough loot to make for a trio. And if Degen, Ajers, and Skqttles get all of that as well as Orchard, and with how good this team is at rotating and getting Storm Surge tags, especially if Colazo is contesting Dequented at Risky Reels, which will slow down their rotates, they can get easy Storm Surge tags on them. Things are looking really good for them, but they could have another team drop on them, and if that team's super aggressive, that'll change things up very, very quickly. Next up, Jahq and Acorn. Obviously, they are the FNCS champs. They dominate in everything they play. Solos, they all dominate. Duos, they dominate. Acorn and Jahq play together. Squads, they dominated. Like, they literally win everything they play in. The Cash Cups, so things are looking fantastic for them. They have uncontested Slurpee because, of course, they do. Who's going to drop on the FNCS champs? They are one of the scariest fighting teams by far. They really do play fantastically, and they're a team of grinders. And if anyone has still been putting in the hours, VOD reviewing, playing, practicing behind the scenes despite not being able to play FNCS, it's Jahq and Acorn. I genuinely think they could be a team that could win back-to-back trio FNCSs, and I'm sure you guys agree as well. There's not much else I need to say about them. They're the champs for a reason, and they are still fantastic. Next up, we got Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke out of Craggy Cliffs. Now, Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke always get themselves in some kind of drama when it comes to finals, but it's looking like they're pretty fine right now. I mean, Mackwood tweeted out today that he thinks their team got disqualified, and now this was not Mackwood clout chasing. He was not trolling. It was genuine. Mackwood logged in today and had a warning that his team had been disqualified 2 days out from FNCS. Don't panic. He's not disqualified. Fortnite status ended up tweeting out that it was a bug. It was a bug that a lot of players were getting this warning because of a way they've reshuffled leaderboards for a previous tournament, and it just kind of voided their score. So don't worry. they are able to play, and I think they are ones to take it. They are one of the best teams that's dropping Craggy Cliffs. Obviously, EU, fantastic Craggy Cliffs as well with Janice's team, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It looks like Janice's team is going to have a pretty rough FNCS, but Mackwood, Bucke, Khanada, uncontested at this point. I don't think anyone's going to want to drop on them. Like I said, with Degen, Ajers, Skqttles having that really wide split, I think that'll work worse for them if they have the wide split, because Degen, Ajers, Skqttles know how to play around Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke. They're used to it. They've done it for seasons now. I think it'll be better for Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke if another random team takes that area of the triple houses and the antenna, because you know Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke are going to bully them so hard for Storm Surge, which will help them a lot. But being Craggy Cliffs, they're very zone dependent. This team is a phenomenal team. We have 12 games, but if we get our usual Slurpees zone finals, which is pretty much the curse of every region, for some reason, zones always pull to Slurpee in finals, it's going to make things pretty rough for Mackwood, Bucke, Khanada. But if they get a decent amount of zones, if they get a few zones on them, maybe like 2 or 3, and like maybe 4 zones that are somewhat north, and then the rest are south, they are going to be looking absolutely fantastic. Now, reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero, and this is an interesting one. Obviously, FNCS champs as well, not last season, the season before, but they still had a really good finish last FNCS as well. They are uncontested at Dirty Docks, uncontested. I don't know if you guys missed it today. Reverse 2K put out a video that really... it got the community excited, I guess you could call it. Either very angry or the people loved it. Basically, Reverse 2K did a video talking about his honest opinions of the FNCS finals. He pointed out quite a lot of teams that he thought either didn't deserve to be in finals or he's just never really heard about and said they probably aren't the best teams. So a lot of pros got upset about that. A lot of pros thought it was hilarious. Some people didn't like it. I'm not going to make a whole video. I'm not going to give my huge take on it. I think that Reverse 2K's knowledge on some of these teams was a little bit off. I think to say he hasn't heard of who Teo, Chimp, and Tabney is by this point, it's a little bit over the top. I think they have been performing now for multiple FNCSs. Teams like Nick, Lupian, and Beef, he also talked about, they've been playing so consistently this season. Reverse 2K is the GOAT. Went to World Cup. He's won an FNCS. Reverse 2K has been disrespected for the longest time and slept on for so long. So to see him clap back a little bit, I think is completely fair. I think sadly, the people who are normally disrespecting Reverse 2K are the other tier 1 pros who thought the video he made was hilarious. I think the pros he was talking about, who are super underrated in my opinion, kind of know, if anything, what Reverse 2K is going with, where despite how well they perform, people still don't give them the respect. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I love it when pros talk a little bit of smack. It really does get things heated and excited for finals. Then you have to back it up now. If Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero get outplaced by any of those teams, you know they're going to talk a bunch of smack back and it's going to be entertaining. I never have an issue with pros getting a little bit of beef going. They have to back it up. It's when the fans get involved and it gets super toxic. At the same time, Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero, they've put a huge target on their back by what Reverse 2K did. I don't think any of the teams are going to be able to do too much about it, and with them being uncontested, dirty, and a team you just do not want to drop on, I don't think it's going to affect them too much, other than, like I said, the pressure of really having to perform now. One thing that really works into their favor, they have Snake, Voil, and Accept contesting Adonis, Hornet, and Skylix, which are, again, don't want to flame the guys, 2 of the weaker teams in finals. I could see them doing really, really well, especially Snake, Voil, and Accept. I don't know too much about Adonis, Hornet, and Skylix, so as much as I'm talking about Reverse 2K, you know, saying, oh, who are these players? I know who they are, but they're definitely not like a top 5 team, right? And I don't think they're going to be offended by me saying that. I'm sorry, guys, but 2 teams like that fighting over Kami split right near them is going to play into their favor. One of the biggest issues with Dirty Docks is getting Storm Surge. If they can rotate early enough into these teams and catch them while they're fighting, or catch them while they're a bit shambles, they can get some really good, easy Storm Surge on them. And I think with how good Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero are at fighting, I'm sorry, again, not calling out Snake or Adonis's team. It doesn't matter what team you are. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're running up into Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero in an early game fight, you being contested, so your loot's a little bit shambles, they're walking out with all of Dirty Docks loot, it's not going to go well for you more often than not. Last but not least, we have the clinical back-to-back 2-times champions of second place, Centered Edgey Commandment. They've come second place in the last 2 FNCSs. Centered and Commandment came second place at DreamHack. I genuinely think this is their time to win. I talk about grinders. I talk about players who you know behind the scenes have been putting in the hours despite not being able to play FNCS. That is going to be Centered especially. Edgey and Commandment as well. Commandment has some of the best natural ability of any player in Fortnite. Even if he took this whole season off, he would still be an absolute demon, but I know they've been practicing. Centered Edgey Commandment with their usual uncontested Misty Meadows is looking absolutely fantastic. I hope they can break the second place curse. I mean, 2 second places back to back is just ridiculous consistency as is. That makes them the most consistent team in NA East, even though they haven't yet won. So I think this could be their chance. You have to back them, especially with the caliber of players. And so far, 4 of the 5 teams on this list I've talked about are pretty much all high ground teams. Reverse 2K, Deyy, and Mero, not too much, but Khanada, Mackwood, and Bucke, Jahq, Slacks, and Acorn, and Degen, Ajers, Skqttles are very, very aggressive high ground teams. So Centered Edgey Commandment, being known for their low ground aggression, is going to make them a far, far stronger pick coming into this. That's why they are so consistent in these tournaments. They won't often get those big pop-off, 20 elimination victory royales, but they get those ridiculously consistent placements for just playing low ground like nobody else. And I don't know if there's any other teams in this lobby that are going to be as heavily contesting low ground as what they are. So it's going to be an interesting one to see. Now, my plan was to pick one underrated team that I was going to talk about coming into the finals that I think could pop off, and for that, I picked Jahq, Threats, and Rise out of Holly Hedges. Their placements right now and their consistency is just insane, and I don't want you guys to be, oh, Aussie, they're not underrated. Everyone knows about Jahq, Threats, and Rise. I know everyone knows about them, but I think no one is talking about how consistent and how solid their placements have been in everything. EU Cash Cups, NA East Cash Cups, NA West Cash Cups, FNCS. They've been playing so consistently in everything. I have really, really high hopes for them. They're coming out of a drop spot that hasn't seen a ridiculous amount of success on a lot of regions, but it's strong enough with a team that's playing really, really well. So that was going to be my underrated pick, but I feel so bad not including Gabe Tahi and Sprite, who, again, we've got to see them play a single set lobby game. They have played one single set lobby game when uncontested at Sweaty Sands, and they won the reboot round. I don't need to tell you about that. You already know what happens. I want to see what they can do with 12 games uncontested Sweaty. I would not be at all surprised if this team won or got a top 3 or top 5. The only reason I don't have them in my top 5 is just how ridiculously proven all the other teams are. All the other teams have done it for multiple FNCSs, multiple tournaments at their drop spots, all uncontested. We just have so much more data to go off of them, but I would not be at all surprised if Gabe Tahi and Sprite dominated this FNCS. Now, that leaves a lot of teams, and I don't want you guys coming at me. I have left off some absolutely phenomenal teams, like Avery Stretch Sav, Blake Furious Illest, Teo Chim Tabney, Scope's team's been popping off, Season Tragics. They've all been playing so well. I don't want you guys to come flame me. It was so hard to pick a top 5, but let's talk about some of those teams. Now, again, we're going to go to the contested drops first because they're the most interesting. Nick, Lupian, and Nobu Beef going up against Niddle, Casca, and Smacked at Retail Row. Now, this is an interesting one. This, in my opinion, out of all the contested drops, is the one that is going to be the most grief fest, where I think either of these teams had a really, really good chance, especially with Nick, Lupian, and Nobu Beef being the most consistent team in qualifiers that didn't automatically qualify through. Who's going to be able to take it out? I don't really know, because Nick, Lupian, and Beef have been versing a lot of teams during the weeks and the qualifiers and coming out on top, but Niddle, Casca, and Smacked are a very, very scary team that also know Retail Row just as well as them. I actually have a feeling that depending on how the Kami split fight goes between Snake's team and Adonis's team, I think Nick's team could actually end up leaving Retail, going the Spire and the area to the north, and letting Niddle, Casca, Smacked have it. I just think Nick, Lupian, and Beef care a lot more about their FNCS. They're on a big trajectory right now, especially with 2 of them signing to a new org. They're going to be excited to pop off and really perform, and I don't think they're going to want to get into a 12-game slog match at Retail Row. But if it does go to a slog match, like I'm going to say for all these teams contested, if no one leaves, neither of them are going to do too well, but I have high hopes for them. I hope one of them can leave and find a good spot, and they both do really well. We also have Colazo, TabsG, and Ved going up against Dequented, Zemo, and Tetro. Colazo was talking about this on stream today. It's a good drop spot for him. Risky reels. He's fought there a lot before. He's got TabsG and Ved backing him up. They're a very scary fighting team. And he is going up against one of the most unknown teams, or the teams with, again, I don't want to say the worst teams. I hate saying that because we've seen so many underrated names pop off, but teams that we've seen perform the least. Not the worst. We just haven't seen that much from them for a long period of time. So it's a good team that I think might leave the drop spot, or hopefully will leave the drop spot, because obviously, again, full bias out there. I'm a huge Colazo fanboy. I love TabsG and Ved as well. I want them to do really well. Their qualification story was so exciting. Getting dropped on in the last game, getting the 3 eliminations on spawn that clutched them the 6th place after they left their Holy Hedges drop that was contested. I mean, it's a good story, man. I want to see them close it out, but they are contested. It's going to be a rough one. We have an interesting one going on over at Stealthy Stronghold as well. We have Savage, Jaden Shot, and Nets going up against Slacks' team. Again, that's not Slacks from Slurpy Swamps. That is Slacks with E-Rog. And I mean, I don't know this team at all, man. I'm so sorry. I just don't know that much about them. I don't know that much about either of them. But again, I love being proven wrong. I don't know who's going to be able to walk away with that drop spot, but a good way to get your name out there, especially on the broadcast. If you're fighting on spawn, let's see who's the best fighter. I like that 2 of our big name teams, Blake Furious and Illest and Cease Tragics and Scopes, have found their own drop spots that aren't major POIs. They're not going to be contesting some of the big names. They've gotten their own little areas. Blake Furious and Illest have the log jam and that southeast of our southwest of Slurpy area, which gives you a whole bunch of loot. Shantytown, they have the fishing. Jahq, Slacks, and Acorn are going to be looking a bit aggressive on that one, but obviously Slacks and Illest being duo partners, I know the vibes are good between these 2 teams. I don't think they're going to be looking for a full grief, but some Storm Surge and maybe a bit of bullying I don't think is out of the cards either. Cease Tragics and Scopes have the log jam and flush factory drop. Really strong drop with a super underrated amount of insane loot. They're just gonna have to work on their Storm Surge. They made it work from Craggy Cliffs last week, which is an edge of map drop. They didn't get the best zones and they put it together, but I hope Cease is their IGL, and with their coach they've done their research, because Surge is going to be a bit of a problem for them, I think. But honestly, they've been putting in more work than almost any other team coming into this. I really hope they have their big performance. Obviously have the new underrated up-and-comers, and I think they've built out of that title. I think Teo, Chimp, and Tabney, I don't think it's fair to call them underrated anymore. They're getting some big attention on their names. They're going to be going Weeping Woods. We also have Dubs, Mega, Rokane. Dubs and Mega are back up on the rise. They're proving a lot of people wrong with Rokane. They're at Bernie Burbs. They're looking really strong. Zlem, Crunchy, and Narwhal, unfortunately, even though they are performing really well, and they did really well in their qualifying week, them going Colossal Crops, I just really don't like Colossal Crops as a drop, so we'll have to see if they can maybe change my opinion on that. We do have Nutchucky and Nosh going up against 20, Scully, and Leo at the Spire. Nutchucky and Nosh had a ridiculous qualifying week, but they're contested. You guys know how I feel about being contested. Zum, Stacky, and Haft at Steamy Stacks. Again, a really good drop spot for a team that I'm excited to learn more about. I don't have much to say about them. I've seen them play really well, and if they're getting uncontested Steamy, that means people are pretty scared of them. We got Sparebo, Felix, and Pose. Now, this is like my big brain, real smart team. I love this team. They don't go an aggressive drop at all. They make a drop work with the mountains and the bridge, and then a little bit of the area just near the Spire. And with 2 teams contested at Spire, that actually makes their chance of winning so much higher. They can get easy Storm Surge tags, even go in and bully and clean up a team to get even more loot. But this is a super underrated team for me. That's a real smart team that plays real slow, and I love the way they play their game. Obviously, the last team, again, it's not going to be Floki, Decryptos, and Clement. It is going to be Kaz, Who Fishy, and Animal, who are going Pleasant Park. I have really high hopes for them, and they're uncontested Pleasant. I was surprised. This team has got some ridiculous fighters. Obviously, Animal and Kaz have been playing competitive Fortnite since the dawn of time and have always made finals. Pair that with Who Fishy, who's just an absolute demon controller player, but I was still surprised to see them get uncontested Pleasant. I want to see this be their big pop-off moment, because Kaz makes finals a lot, hasn't had a lot of huge performances recently. Same with Animal. I want to see them have a really big performance this season. All right, moving on to EU, and now this is the spicy one. NAEs did not have a lot of teams contested at all. These are not the top tier teams. EU, different story. right out the gate, we have Hen, Janice, and Chapix getting contested by Chris, Nayte, and Vortex at Craggy. That is your FNCS champs getting contested. Hen, Janice, and Chapix are something else right now. They are unarguably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best teams. They are just dominating everything. Their momentum right now is insane. To think this team almost split after last FNCS is just ridiculous to me, but if they get contested all 12 games, I don't care how good they are not winning. It's just that simple. I just don't think they're going to win while being contested, no matter how insane they are. So I wanted to clear that up because before I talk about my top 5 and why Hen, Janice, and Chapix aren't in it, that's why, and it makes me really sad to see. But let's see, can they be the team that is just on a whole nother level? They're that good. They win the spawn fight 12 times, free surge, free points, and they go back to back. I'd love to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen. Let's jump into my top 5 for EU, and again, in no particular order. So kicking off, we do have the GOAT himself, Tayson, Nayte, and Forziar. They have uncontested Sweaty. They've been playing so ridiculously consistent right now. They've won multiple cash cups. They won their qualifying week. They won a DreamHack Extra. They've just been winning so many things, and Tayson is a proven FNCS Finals champion. He's won 2 FNCSs before this. So if anyone's going to handle the pressure, if anyone's going to step up and really dominate, and remember, again, Forziar's just come off the back of winning DreamHack with his teammate Kha'Zix, and Tayson came in second. So this team has been made up of obviously winners right now. They're dominating in everything. They even managed to hold Sweaty Sands over the kings of Sweaty Sands, Noahreyli, Rezon, and Vadeal. If you can take Sweaty Sands off them and make them not want to drop there, that means they are just on an entirely different level right now. That is just how dominant they are. So I have massive faith in them. Tayson could be the first person after Jinx in OCE to win 3 FNCS titles. I love to see it. Number 2, we have the newly formed team of Mr. Savage, Endretta, and Refsgaard. And man, I've been waiting so long to say this for Endretta and Refsgaard. They have uncontested steamy stacks. Oh, seriously feels so good. I love this team. I've loved them for the longest time. Endretta is one of my favorite pros since the World Cup days, and he finally gets uncontested steamy in a finals with Mr. Savage. They are looking so ridiculously strong. They came second in their second week of qualifiers. They seem to be one of those teams that gets better as the lobbies get more stacked. They are full of incredibly smart and incredibly consistent players who've been in these finals lobbies a lot. Obviously, Endretta and Refsgaard, we haven't got to see their full potential because they're just always so heavily contested at steamy stacks. Mr. Savage as well has to kind of break his finals curse. Savage has not been performing that well in finals for quite a while now, other than when he plays solos, but I really think this is the time for all of them to come together, have the huge performance everyone knows they can, and really jump up. Savage IGLing with what looks like Endretta doing a lot of the tarping endgame is such a winning combination for this team, as long as no one decides to contest steamy, because I honestly am just... I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. This team is just, or at least Endretta and Refsgaard have just had multiple tournaments, seasons, FNCS after FNCS, just griefed by other teams at Steamy. I hope they get it uncontested. If they do, I can almost guarantee they get a top 5, and I think they could win it. This third one is a little bit of a tougher one for me. Floki, Decryptos, and Clement, they have uncontested Pleasant Park. They came 4th in week 2 and 3rd in week 3. So they've come top 4 twice. This is a team that I think is going to do a very good chance of getting top 5, maybe even a top 3 really consistently. If they win it, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't have as much faith in them to win it. But I think they are one of the most underrated consistent teams in EU. I want to see how they go in the real stack lobbies. Obviously, the qualifying weeks when a lot of the teams have taken out of the pool, we haven't seen them prove themselves as much, but I definitely think they're a team to look out for. They've been doing really, really well in a lot of cash cups and a lot of the W key games. I think they'll be able to piece it together with uncontested Pleasant. I'm really confident for a top 5, not so much for a win, but I had to include them in my top 5 because they are doing so well right now. Another wild card one for me is Anas, Flikk, and ThomasHD, and I can't not include them in a top 5, but at the moment, their placements have been a little bit off. Their placements haven't been the best, and because they auto-qualified, we haven't seen how they've got to play in finals. I'm just going off a lot of cash cups, so maybe W keying, maybe those aggressive lobbies aren't their thing. I hope it isn't just a sign of them being off pace, because a lot of the teams I've talked about have auto-qualified from NA East and EU, so we haven't got to see how they play stack lobbies, but they've all been doing really, really well in cash cups. Anas, Flikk, and ThomasHD is different, but they have their winning formula of uncontested dirty docks. They are three of the best players in the world. I have a feeling just cash cups maybe hasn't been it for them. They haven't been as motivated, so I really hope they bring it together for finals, but I'd be stupid to make a top 5 in EU and not include Anas, Flikk, and ThomasHD. I'm just scared because we haven't seen them perform recently. Lucky last on my top 5, and this is a scary one again. Rezon, Noahreyli, and Vadeal. They're dropping bony burbs. If they were still at their sweaty sands uncontested, if Tayson was in the finals, I would be so much more confident in them. I slept on them last FNCS. I'm happy to admit it. I said that there's a good chance they get top 5. I wasn't as confident though because I said the same thing like a lot of people do. I don't want you guys coming at me. I wasn't the only person that was surprised how well they did last FNCS. Not because they're not insane players, not because they haven't been grinding, just because set lobbies, we didn't have that experience of how well were they going to be able to, you know, tone down the aggression, the W keying. They popped off. They were super dominant, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. I am a bit scared because since they auto-qualified in, we haven't got to see them play as much. They haven't really been able to practice in any of the set lobbies. EU doesn't have a huge practice scene right now, and if you're running scrims, you're not usually inviting the kings of W keying. So Bony Burbs, it could work. We've seen good teams make it work out of Bony Burbs, but you combine a new drop spot with a lack of practice, and that's what scares me. But when you just take sheer mechanical skill, you have to think this team's going to be able to put it together, because even if they had a primal pistol and a bow, I'm still putting good money on them to win fights. They are on another level when it comes to fighting. Now, EU underrated team. I honestly don't know. I've wanted to do it. There's so many. Okay, let me like just quadruple dip here. I'm sorry. I'm not going to try and brag if any of these guys do well, because I'm dipping on like 5 teams here. It's too hard to pick. I'm looking at Kiriachi, Toos, and Stormy Right at Slurpy Swamps. They're uncontested, and this team is an insanely underrated fighting team. They came first in their qualifying week while being contested all 6 games. They broke my mold for teams that are contested and still doing well. Now they're uncontested. Is that going to make them better, or is that going to make them worse? But they could also be able to push north and third party the fight that's going to break down between Nikov, Alpha, Blaster against Savid, Krizzy, and Rifler at Weeping Woods. If they can third party that fight enough and push them around and use their early game aggression, I think that's a huge recipe for success. Right next to them though, you have Queasy, Trulex, and again, I never know how to say his name, and I feel so bad because my man watches my streams. Jerky? Is it Jerky? I'm so bad with EU names, man, but this team looks insanely strong. They are going one of the most underrated splits on the map with Flush Factory and Hydro Dam, and they know how to do it. They've been playing a bunch of scrims. They've been playing so consistently in the qualifying weeks. I have really high hopes for them. You have Anderlecht, Sweezy, and Snazy, and now this one's hard, right? I've been talking about Anderlecht's team the whole season. What are they going to do with uncontested Caddy? If they get uncontested Caddy, they're going to pop off. They've actually given up Caddy, and they've now got Weather Station Camp COD. That scares me a bit for their Storm Surge, but they've been popping off. I have faith in them. We have Marion, Slicks, and Lenuif. Again, Murray and Lenny. I know I butcher Marion and Lenuif's or Lunef's name. I'm sorry. They've been popping off really, really hard at the moment. They do have risky reels to themselves. Not a super strong drop, but I could see them potentially taking this away as well. Freemock's team. Freemock, I mean, you guys have seen the clip from the FNCS weeks. This team is absolutely disgusting. They really do just run through teams, and they have uncontested Holy. I talked about how good I think Holy is for NA East. I think it could work well for them. Unfortunately, we have a lot of the other favorite teams contested. Kinzel's team is going to be contested by Tripper over at the Orchard. They could split Orchard doing that north and south thing like I talked about with Degen, Ajers, Skqttles. We have Bad Sniper's team going up against Kaiser's team and Hellfire at Lazy Lake. That's going to be a tough one for either team to walk away from. Dementos going up against Fastrocky's team at Misty Meadows. Again, going to be really, really tough one. I think one of the most interesting spawn fights is obviously either going to be Nikov's team against Savid's team or Wolfie's team against Scram's team. Retail Row, Wolfie's has been popping off. He's been very vocal on social media about how much he's practicing, how much he's improving. It's going to be interesting to watch those fights, man. I'm super excited. Now, I know I left some teams off from NA East and EU. No disrespect to you guys. I left off Jaze's team, Sizlucky's team. I left off Carey's team from NA. EU, I've left off a few of you guys as well. Left off Stompy, Joe, Bloomy. It's no disrespect. I need to make this video at a certain point. I think I've already been going for what, like 20, 30 minutes. This is a long video. I'm sorry. I didn't even plan for it to be this long originally. I want to talk about all of you. Anyone I didn't talk about, it does not mean they aren't a phenomenal team. They don't have a huge chance. It's just, I know you guys say you like the longer videos, but I'm recording this late at night. My editor is literally messaging me waiting for this video to finish, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed my grand finals breakdown. If I'm completely wrong and an underrated team pops off and takes it all, I'm gonna be so happy to see that happen. I guess we'll just have to see how grand finals breaks down. If you liked today's video, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your picks. Maybe give me a list of your top 5s for each region. I think that'd be really awesome to come back to and see if any of you guys get it right. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.